All right, here's another example of somebody taking an idea from their opponent, rewrapping it, and making it kind of sound the same but different. Wraps it in a ton of bureaucracy. Okay, so yesterday, Freeland comes out and says eliminate GST on new homes for young Canadians if she forms government. Very little details onto what young Canadians mean. Is that under 35? Is that under 30? Is that under 25? We don't know. We don't know. But it is not the broad promise that Pierre Poilievre put in, which is to remove the GST from home purchases sold for under $1 million. So in the Toronto area, a home under $1 million is going to be a condo, and especially a new home, a condo, maybe some townhouses further into the 905, especially maybe Durham, but it'll make a larger impact in smaller cities than it will the GTA, to be sure. But it should, if implemented correctly, remove tax input. So when you buy new off a builder and you close, you will sign, the builder will have you sign something that says they will get the HST credit back or the GST credit back, right? So you're paying GST on top of your purchase price, HST on top of your purchase price, and the builder gets an offset, right? So their construction materials, everything are subject to HST. They have you sign over the rebate to them to offset that. And if they remove the HST from that price point, presumably they're going to remove it from the input credits and give the builder the credits for the input credits automatically, and not have the end user pay the HST and get the rebate back to the seller. So that's removing an input cost and lowering the broad base. And I'm pretty sure under $1 million, wherever they can, the builders would be pricing, instead of 1.1, they'd be pricing 9,999, especially in a slower market, to get people under that $1 million price point. And so this would not kind of do this. This sounds like it's going to give her a credit back to the end purchaser. So the end purchaser pays, the builder gets the rebate back, and then the government rebates back the purchaser. So kind of like a double credit, but lacking, of course, details and the fine print. Now, yesterday, too, Trump came out and said tariffs are subject to, they're stackable. So if you have a 25% tariff on steel and a 25% tariff on Canada, that would probably mean a 50% tariff on steel. Stackable. Now, it's interesting to note, too, the two steel companies in Hamilton, one was bought by a U.S. company last year. The other one is like a European conglomerate kind of operation. And that one, Ontario and Canadian taxpayers are helping to subsidize them putting in electric arc furnaces due to be operational in 2028. That same company, I read today, announced that they're moving their EU staff to India for cost savings. So, and then Carney comes out with this. How much steel are you using these days? How much steel are you using these days? Well, you buy a car, you got I-beams in houses, aluminum windows, you got commercial construction, you got condo construction, you got rebar in concrete, you have Doug Ford, in his construction projects, uses a lot of steel products, right? And already steel and aluminum makers are seeing a holdback or a cancellation of orders in anticipation of these tariffs, which would be coming out March the 4th. So we have February 27th is the Ontario election. March the 4th, tariffs on steel. I think March the 4th, the tariff reprieve ends. You got March the 9th, the Liberal leader election. You got March 24th, prorogation ends. Trump is also threatening like 50 or 100% tariffs on cars from Canada, which Stellantis, which is like a European base but with American brands, right? Ford in Oakville, a little bit of GM, some Toyota, and some Honda would be greatly affected. And so that there's talk, how much would a tariff raise the price of a car? And the word is that the part suppliers wouldn't calculate tariffs, that they would just put down their tools and shut down the industry on both sides of the border for the immediate future to see what shakes out. Therefore, limiting supplies on both sides of the border, which in theory would increase prices automatically because of the shortage of supply, and probably raise used cars prices as well. So, not great for an industry. But if you look at the amount of jobs employed in Ontario from the steel industry, the aluminum industry, the construction industry, and the car manufacturing industry, as well as retail sales for cars and part suppliers and retail part suppliers and cars manufacturing part suppliers and things like that. Like a foam in Ontario could get placed into a seat that gets shipped down to Ohio that's put into a Jeep. So that's kind of thing. And the Americans would make the tires and then ship them to Ontario to put them on the cars and, things like that. So there's hundreds of parts moving back and forth for a final assembly and then put into the vehicle on whichever side of the border. So imagine all that activity shutting down. Hamilton would be particularly hit. Windsor would be particularly hit. And depending on the length of these shutdowns, it would presumably spike up things like power of sales and things as people are already stretched right now as it is. And to see layoffs in those sectors due to these tariffs in any great quantity for length of time, like longer than 90 days, would really severely hurt the economy of Ontario. Yeah, so here's the information on the Dofasco. Now it's owned by these guys, which is a European, and we're on the hook for funding for the furnace, right? And you can look it up. This is Ontario gave them funding, and presumably I think Canada as well, for them to switch to electric arc furnaces. And then you have, Sault Ste. Marie and just places all over Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and BC that would be affected by steel tariffs. And so a huge portion of the country. And then every construction project that is either a condo, a commercial building, a government bridge project, highway construction, all of this would be greatly affected. But for him to say we don't use a lot of steel and aluminum in our daily basis is like way out of touch. Way out of touch. Take care.